Hello everyone and welcome to episode 50 of my World of Warcraft Human Mage level 1 through 60 playthrough, where today I want to do something very fun, and is to go to one of the two last zones in Kalimdor, where the other last zone is probably not going to be one that we explore on this character and will be one that we explore in a future character, but I want to go on an expedition to Winterspring, which is a level 55 to level 60 zone, and we're currently level 54, so it might be a little bit of a challenge, but I think we're going to be okay, especially because I want to do a little bit of stuff on the way there. Where last episode we spent a ton of time in the Burning Steppes, and then I came over here to Fellwood and I did a bunch of quests in this zone, and we have basically completed all the quests here, and I'm going to head up here to the Northern Inn, where I have a couple of quests left throughout the rest of the zone that we could do if we wanted to, but I mostly want to stick to this final little questing hub here outside Timbermall Hold, which is a location and a reputation that I talked a little bit about last episode, and I've talked about in the past, I think. And I believe if we come into our reputation page here, scroll down, we are currently unfriendly with the Timbermall Hold, which means that we can pass through this place if we want to, and we won't be attacked by the furbolgs in here, except we cannot communicate with any of them just yet. And I would like to raise my reputation a little bit to get up to like friendly, as I was saying last episode, so we can get that tailoring quest. But this location is really cool because we have one entrance here in Fellwood, and then there's also like kind of something going on here in Azjara, which we saw like a massive entrance here into Timbermall Hold. But this goes out into two different zones, one of which is Moonglade, which I guess we'll poke our heads into, and then the other is Winterspring. But just like down south where we had a furbolg that we were helping out, we have a furbolg up here that we can help, where we are basically just going to kill a bunch of the evil furbolgs around here. We're basically the Timbermall Hold at the point of vanilla World of Warcraft, where in future expansions, more specifically off my memory, in the first expansion this changes a little bit, but they are the only furbolg tribe left in Kalimdor or the world or whatever that are not corrupted by like the magics of the Burning Legion, where we have these Deadwood furbolgs here that are level 55, so one level higher than us, so there's sub 54s there that we are going to deal with, and they are corrupted. So we're going to help out the Timbermall Hold tribe here, and we're going to basically get some reputation from killing these furbolgs, get some reputation from turning in the quest, and then we have our very special Deadwood headdress feathers that we have been collecting as we have killed the furbolgs down south, which we should get some up here as well, that we can turn in for a measly 50 reputation, but it's 55 because we are a human, which I guess is nice. Compared to Wrath of Lich King and Retail WoW, it is definitely a little low. So in Vanilla WoW, getting to Exalted with the Timbermall Hold is definitely a bit of a lengthy adventure. Oh, this is not good for us. I did not loot that furbolg, but I can come back for it. Let's just run out of here. I was attacking that one furbolg, and then he was like slowly wandering over here, but I like stunned him in place, and then I think that caught the attention of like the other furbolgs, and they started running after me. But it looks like we're fine. And here is the last furbolg that I need to kill for the Deadwood of the North quest, but I think we're probably going to pull like one or two more, or maybe we're fine. We'll see what happens here. And I currently have 15 headdress feathers, which is actually pretty nice because that's an even amount for the quest turn-ins. But if I get another drop here, I might stick around for a second, and we can go get 4 more, and there's a bunch of furbolgs around here. So I finished this one quest, but I think I'll get 4 more feathers so we can have an even amount of turn-ins to the quest, and then we can go ahead and move forward after that. And we just got a Deadwood Witch Shield Totem, which is actually pretty nice. So that is another quest that we can turn in, but we might have to be neutral. Yes, we have to be neutral with the Timbermall Hold in order to turn this in, and we get a choice, or we get both of these potions plus almost a gold, which is nice. But we can just hold on to this until we become neutral with Timbermall Hold, and then we can turn that in for some extra experience and reputation and those rewards as well. I just got a very cool drop, which I have not gotten many of these in my lifetime, but this is related to the Darkmoon Fair. If you remember, like maybe 15 episodes ago now, we talked a lot about the Darkmoon Fair, and you can get trading cards out in the road as drops, and we just got a 3 of Warlords. So we could collect these and we could make a deck, and we'll get a very special item from turning in the deck, or we could sell this on to the auction house, which is probably going to be what I do, because I don't think I'm super interested in building out one of these decks, which is something that I've never done before, but still. And this is happening to me again. Let's go ahead, finish that. We got that. Let's blink out of here and we should be fine. So I just googled what the Warlord's reward is, and it is a Dark Moon card, Heroism, which is a level 60 epic trinket, which when you equip, sometimes heals bearer of 120 to 180 damage when damaging an enemy in melee. And since we're spellcasters and not really melee fighters, that is going to be kind of useless for us. Maybe a very niche beneficial thing where we're like running away and we're whacking them with our staff, but other than that, really not super useful for us. Which I guess while we are fighting Furbolgs here, let's go ahead and take a look at this Noggin Fogger elixir, which I got many episodes ago, and I said I would explore it in a future episode, so let's go ahead and look at it now. Or basically, we can drink this and it will give us one of 3 buffs. The first is Light as a Feather, which reduces fall damage for 2 minutes, so that's basically the same exact thing as our slow fall ability we have right here. And then we have Stop Breathing, which sounds bad, but it's actually pretty decent. It turns you into a skeleton, which is pretty cool, and you can fight as that skeleton for 10 minutes, and it allows underwater breathing. So that might actually be beneficial for us if we're ever in like an underwater area and like need to breathe. And then the third thing is You Feel Smaller, makes you smaller, lasts 10 minutes. So we can drink this and see what we get. Where we got the You've Stopped Breathing, where we become a skeleton and we can actually fight as a skeleton, and this uses the undead Forsaken kind of like rigging and stuff. So if we were an undead of the Horde, this is how we would cast our Frostbolt and stuff. And the Noggin Fogger elixir is a pretty popular item that a lot of people really like, and there's like been a lot of like videos and kind of like discussion and stuff about it. Just a big part of classic WoW, I guess. And there is the last Deadwood Headdress feather that we need. So we have a clean 20, and then we have completed the other quest as well. So let's go ahead, try to evade all of the Furbolgs right here, and let's get back to the main road where we can run up to Timbermaw, turn in these quests, and then let's go ahead and run through it. And we can also see how much reputation we get from turning all this in, where I don't think we're going to be quite at neutral just yet. But we can go ahead and turn in a Deadwood of the North, and then we can't use either of these items, but we can go ahead and pick the plate one because it might sell for more gold. And then we got 165 reputation, so yeah, 150, and then we have our 15 bonus from being a human. And then this quest is to go to Winterspring, and then let's go ahead and turn in these 20 feathers where we're getting 55 each, 50 plus the 5 from being a human, because we get the 10% reputation bonus from our diplomacy passive skill or talent or whatever it's called. Passive skill, I think. Or just called passive, I guess. Racial passive. But with all of that done, we are now at 748 out of 3,000 for unfriendly. But we are unfriendly, which means we can walk through here without being attacked. And I think if we select at war with Timbermaw, we could attack them if we wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I like the Timbermaw Furbolgs. They're probably like one of my favorite like reputations in the entire game for some really random reason. Like they're kind of, at the end of the day, a more insignificant reputation, but still a pretty fun reputation. And as we come to the central chamber here, we can go ahead, it looks like they were attacking someone running through here. We can go ahead and run through this tunnel, where we want to eventually run through the eastern tunnel to get to Winterspring. But we can go ahead and check out a very special zone of Kalimdor called Moonglade, where there's really only 2 purposes to Moonglade existing. One is for a festival, for Lunar Festival, and then the second is for druids, where there is a lot of stuff going on here for druids, where they come here for a bunch of quests. And we would have been coming here since like level 10 if we were playing a druid instead of a mage, but since we are not a druid, we have not been here until now, where druids can actually teleport here, and then they have very special flight masters that will take them back to Thunderbluff or Darnassus, depending on if they're Horde or Alliance respectively. But there's also a normal Horde and Alliance Flight Master, where we can go grab the Alliance Flight Master, and then we have a Timbermaw Mystic right here at the entrance to Moonglade, and we can come out into Moonglade, which which is a very beautiful area where Fillwood used to basically look like this, like how it looked like Ashenvale and stuff like that. But alas, Fillwood was corrupted by the Burning Legion, but Moonglade is in a relatively like peaceful, safe like valley here in northern Kalimdor, so it's been like protected from a lot of evils with like the Burning Legion and stuff like that. And as I've said, it's a pretty important place for druids, and with that, it's a pretty important place for like lore and story related to druids, and where I don't think it played too big of a part in Warcraft 3, but it has some relevance to some of the Warcraft novels, I believe. But we can go ahead and run over here, and we can go talk to this Hippogriff Master, so we can unlock this flight path here, so we can get back to Talonbranch Glade or Auberdine or Woodthron Village if you wanted to. But let's go ahead and run over this way, where we see all the way over there. And if we take a look at our map, which actually I guess you have to come a little bit closer to Lake Aluna Raw, where there's a level 60 hunter fishing here, and we just discovered that. Now if we look at our map, we have the entire map of Moonglade uncovered, where it's a pretty small zone, but you know, it serves its purpose as being like a hub for druids. But there is a Stormrage Barrowdens, which is a lore important location where I believe Malfurion Stormrage is actually sleeping inside there. I'm not sure if he's in vanilla or if you just see him in like the Wrathlich King or Cataclysm pre-patch or whatever, but he's over there. And then we have the Shrine of Remulos, which Remulos I believe is a wild god or is a minion of a wild god for Cenarius, one of his like lieutenants or whatever, where we have Keeper Remulos here, who is a pretty important lore character for the reasons that I just said. And then we have Nighthaven, which is the central town here in Moonglade, which serves a purpose for the druids and is also like the big spot that you come to for a special activity during the Lunar Festival, I believe. Or maybe it takes place over here, I forget, where you fight a very special boss. But we can go ahead and run through this area where we got a bunch of like different merchants and stuff, of course, and there's Moonglade Wardens who are members of the Cenarian Circle, who we interacted with a bit in Fillwood and who we can interact with in the other level 55 to 60 zone that we could explore that is in Winterspring all the way down in southern Kalimdor. But we are not going to be doing that, as I mentioned earlier. But if we run over here, we can just get a sneak peek at the very special flight masters that exist right here. Where basically the druids are teleported in, like over here at this building, I think. And then if they want to return, they can run over here to the Darnassus or Thunderbluff Flightmaster. But let's go ahead and run over this way, where I think we want to go to the main building of Nighthaven, where there are a bunch of druid trainers that we could talk to if we wanted to. But I just have a quest to turn in here that's going to take us to that aforementioned level 55 to level 60 zone. There's a druid trainer out there. There's a boyar there, which isn't really important for druids because they can't use bows, but I guess is nice for other people in the area. But let's go ahead, turn this in, and then this is to go to Celithus, which we are not going to do, so I'm just going to leave that there. And then with that, I think that is pretty much everything that I wanted to explore with Moonglade. So let's go ahead and head back towards Timbermaw Hold, and then we can run back through it to that central chamber and take the other tunnel out of there. But here is the central chamber once again, where there are a bunch of special furbolgs of the Timbermaw Hold here that we could talk to once we become neutral. But let's go ahead and run up here a little bit, where this is the bridge that will take us back to Fillwood. But let's come this way to Winterspring. And as you can guess by the name of Winterspring, this zone is another snowy zone in the game, where really the only other major one in Classic WoW is Dun Moreau, which is the dwarf starting zone. But this is a special place in Kalimdor that's very high up in the mountains of northern Kalimdor, and there are some Winterfall runners right there that I'm just going to wait a second and let them pass. Oh, it looks like they are being attacked by this mage here that is farming them. So let's go ahead, run out this way, past this mage and past this human here, and let's go ahead and advance into Winterspring, where we have some quests to turn in from Fillwood. We have some quests to turn in from the Ungoro Crater, where we have this quest right here that we can turn in, which I almost ran past. So let's go ahead, turn this in, and then pick up a Winterfall activity where we can complete that quest. And then we have Dawn of a Snowden down here, where we have a special quest that we can do. We also have a quest from Teldrassil, which is like the second quest in the chain, where we picked up feathers that were dropped by the Wildkin in the hinterlands, and now we can do it here in Winterspring. And then there are just a bunch of other quests that we can pick up at a very special location here for the Alliance, and then also at the main town in this zone, which is the fourth and final town in the Steam Weedle Cartel that we have to explore. But before we get there, we have a few stops to make. So let's come down here to Dawn of Snowden, and we have 2 quests to turn in and a quest to pick up, and this is going to lead to some other things. So let's go ahead, turn this in first, and then pick this up, and then turn this in, and then let's pick these. We have to wait a second. So let's come over here, get this Moon Touch Feather while we wait for Donovan to do her thing over there. So then we can pick up these 2 quests, which has us going all around the world, and then we can also do some stuff here in Winterspring with fighting some of the Winterfall Furbolgs, where we were fighting the Deadwood Furbolgs just now in Fillwood. We can fight these ones up here. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and run past them, and I think the next stop that I want to make is to a special Night Elf village. I believe it's called Starfall, where we have a quest to turn in, and then we have some quests to pick up as well. Where we have this crossing right here, so this goes to Moonglade Fillwood, this goes to Kilthero, which is an ancient Caldoi, like basically destroyed ruin, and then we have Starfall Village, which is our destination, and then Everlook, which is the Goblin Town. So let's go ahead and come this way, because we do not want to go to Kilthero right now. We will go there later. And then another crossing here where we can go to Starfall Village or Frostsaber Rock, where Frostsaber Rock is a really important location for like level 60 Alliance players, where you can do a very, very, very long reputation grind to unlock a special Frost Saber mount, which is really cool. But we have coming up here a split in the road to a Night Elf village here of Starfall Village, where we can see that there are a couple of buildings here, and then I believe there's also a barrel den up there that we can see coming in the far distance there. But we have a quest to turn in and a couple quests to pick up, so let's go ahead and grab all of those, and we're going to have quite a few quests in Winterspring to do, so we should be able to get a decent amount of experience from doing all the quests around here. Where a very interesting thing about Winterspring is how there are a total of, I believe, 4 quests in the zone, where we just picked up one of them, that are going to direct us towards the Western and Eastern Plague Lands, which are the next 2 zones that I really want to dive deep into and explore, which are like the 2 highest level zones in the Eastern Kingdoms, where of course this zone is level 55 to 60. You do a bunch of exploring here. You don't get all the way to 60, so it guides you route to the Western and Eastern Plague Lands, which of course it just makes sense for that. Or the Western Plague Land starts at level 52, so we could have been there for now, but I'm waiting to go there in a little bit. But it's nice that we are coming to Winterspring, because we have the quest that we just picked up, and then we'll have 3 more that will guide us over there. But we have just discovered Everlook, which is this goblin town right here. So it's very similar to like Gadgetzan, but instead of being like deserty and like sandy, it's snowy up here in the mountains, where we have the Horde Wind Rider Master right there. And I'm going to run past him right now and come over here to the Alliance Hippogriff Master, and we can go ahead and get this flight path right here, where if you take a look at our map here, we have explored a bunch of Kalimdor. We haven't explored it all, because I am mostly wanting to spend time on our Horde character in Kalimdor and exploring this, where I've mostly stuck to the Eastern Kingdoms on this character. And while after this episode we will do a little bit more stuff in Kalimdor, this is really the last big adventure that I want to do, and we're really going to dive deep into Kalimdor in the next Let's Play series that I do. But since I just said that 2 times, let's go ahead and run over here, and we can enter Everlook, and we can pick up a bunch of quests. But I think first things first is I want to go straight to this building over here, and I want to go check out a merchant, because there are some very special where this person is talking to them. So I'm going to buy runecloth gloves and then pattern runecloth. So I was panicking there a little bit, but this trade goods supplier right here is a very, very cool merchant for basically high level crafters, especially tailors, where we get this pattern from mooncloth here, where this is like the highest level cloth in the game that you make from the second highest level cloth of fell cloth, which you use for some very high level things. And then we also got these runecloth gloves here, which I'm going to want to utilize in order to get my tailoring up to level 300 if that's something that I want to do. But we can go ahead and throw this down here because I need to check out this merchant every now and then and look for some other recipes and stuff. But we can make this 2 rune cloth, which I believe this has a 4-day cooldown, and you can only make this at a moon well, which is a very special night elf structure that we can go to. So I can make these 2, and we need 2 for that Timber Mall hold quest that I want to do, so I could hold on to those. But I think these sell for like 60 gold each, so that is something that we could do if we wanted. But then if we come in here, I can just come here all the time and take a look. This is enchanting and this is leatherworking, so I don't need any of that at this moment. But we have a banker here and then a bunch of stuff. I really like this telescope type thing right here. But let's go ahead and run around Everlook here and get all the different quests that we need to do. So we have Are We There Yeti? And then we have a bunch of other quests over here that we can pick up. Where in this building, the inn, we have some fun stuff going on. Where we have, I believe, 3 of the quests to go to Western Plaguelands and Eastern Plaguelands, where we have a member of the Red Path family here, and these 2 are both members of the Argent Dawn, and we just have 4 quests now to go to the Western and Eastern Plaguelands, where one of which we have to do some stuff before we go over there, which we can do in just a second. Or one additional thing is that it is currently Hallows End in World of Warcraft, which is like the Halloween festival in this game, which is a pretty fun festival, and there's a bit of stuff that goes on with it, and I explored it in one of my streams a little bit, and then I haven't really done everything on stream or on video. I might at some point in some video sometime in the future. But just to check it out a little bit here, we can see that Everlook is decorated with a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns all around, which is very, very fun, and I love all those decorations. But if we come into here, into the inn, we have a couple things we can do, which is 1, we have this apple bob where we can bob for bobbing apples, which if that's a mouthful, it kind of is, but we can right-click with this in the apple bob, and then we got bobbing apples by bobbing for the bobbing apples. Anyways, we can come over here and talk to the innkeeper, and we can actually do trick or treat, where in a future version of World of Warcraft we can actually come up to these jack-o'-lantern or this candy bucket here, and we can get some candy from it. But in Vanilla WoW we can only do trick or treat, where we are either going to get tricked or get a treat, where if you click it we got a treat, which if you right click this we got a we got a flimsy male human mask, which out of the 8 masks in the game we could get, this is probably the most boring of them all because we are currently a human male. But let's go ahead and equip this, and we can see that we are wearing a human male mask, which kind of looks like my character actually if I take this off. Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a mask of me a little bit there. But I think I'll stick to my arcane cover there, and this will expire in 7 days, or I could delete it if I want. But I have one other thing where I need to come over here, and I think this quest will unlock at level 55 or something, but we have this quest here that we can turn in, and then we get a quest to go do stuff around here. And now we have a bunch of quests, and more quests will unlock in the future as I level up a little bit. And I am now going to spend a bunch of time doing some quests and killing a bunch of mobs in Winterspring and earning some levels. And let's go ahead and talk about the zone and some of the lore and story going on here. So now that we are questing in Winterspring, I want to take a lot of time to talk about the lore of the zone a little bit, and then I want to talk about kind of the zone itself when it comes to gameplay and like exploring it. And then I kind of want to do something I haven't done in several episodes, and is talk about my experience playing World of Warcraft in general. So let's go ahead and get started with all of this. We're going to talk about Winterspring. It is also known as Winterspring Valley, which is a snowy valley located in northern Kalimdor, east of Fellwood, northeast of Mount Hydro, and north of Ajara. It holds the goblin trading post of Everlook, old night elf ruins, and the vast cave of Mazthril, the primary home of the blue dragonflight on Kalimdor. Many wild creatures roam this beautiful landscape. Long ago, Winterspring was home for many blue dragons, including Hela. 10,000 years ago, the city of Kelthurel was located here. The Highborn who inhabited the city stole the crystal of Zin Malor from the temple in Eldralath, but when they toyed with its tempting power, its shattering cursed them all. Kelthurel suffered until the Great Sundering destroyed it for good, and now the dead wander as ghosts. 100 years before the Cataclysm, a group of High Elves left Quel'Thalas and traveled to Winterspring in order to obtain the crystal. Like their Highborn ancestors, the High Elves were cursed by the crystal's power. During the events of the Third War, Thrall's Horde, the Alliance Remnants, the Scourge, the Night Elven Sentinels, and the Corrupted Satyrs made camps here. Tyrande Whisperwind and Malfurion Stormrage destroyed a human camp and the Satyrs and awakened the Druids of Talon in the Barrow Dens. At the same time, a Death Revenant cursed a glade, raising skeletons and ghosts in the area. Tyrande, Malfurion, and the Sentinels defeated him and recovered the glade. And then during the events of World of Warcraft Vanilla, Elementals invaded the area only to be fought by the adventurers of the Alliance and Horde. Which this is a really interesting piece of World of Warcraft lore that I don't know too much about, but apparently it was some sort of like special event where there were elemental invasions in like a few different zones around the world, specifically Silithus, Ungor Crater, Ajara, and Winterspring, where basically the elementals kind of just appear and they're like invading the area, and then members of the Horde and Alliance can attack them. And I have zero memory of this. I think this happened before I even started playing World of Warcraft. And I think it existed until like the Cataclysm expansion, and I still don't remember seeing this at all. And if anybody who happens to be watching this knows about this, go ahead and talk about this down in the comments, because I'm definitely interested. But after Vanilla World of Warcraft, we of course see little bits and pieces of Winterspring being used in the future parts of the game and future expansions, where obviously Cataclysm had a big revamp and whatnot. But some more pieces of lore. Thousands of years ago, this valley upon the slopes of Mount Hydro served as a place for the Night Elves to start anew in the wake of the Great Sundering, a realm of near perpetual winter. The valley has long been involved in a struggle between malevolent blue dragons and the fearsome white frost saber cats. During the events of Reign of Chaos, the valley was in a rare period of springtime or summer with no snow to be seen anywhere. Winterspring can be accessed through Timbermaw Hold. To reach Winterspring, head through the Hold entrance in the northeastern tip of Felwood and continue straight after the bridge. In order to pass through the Hold without the Timbermaw Furbolgs attacking you, you will need to have reached at least unfriendly reputation with the Timbermaw Furbolgs. There are several quests in Felwood which can be completed to raise reputation with them, which of course we know, and I kind of just want to point out how cool of a system this is, where basically Winterspring and then also Moonglade are kind of zones that not 100%, but like basically you have to do something in the zone beforehand in order to like unlock access to these future zones. Of course you could just run through it and like death run through it and whatnot, but like what you're supposed to do is to spend some time in Felwood and help the Timbermaw Furbolgs in Felwood against the Dreadwood or Deadwood or whatever Furbolgs, and then you basically unlock the ability to go through Timbermaw Hold to access the next zone. Winterspring Valley is above Moonglade and is the last stop along the road that winds up to Hydro Peak. The valley is separated from Moonglade lower on the mountain slope by thick white cloud bank. Winterspring is a cold realm consistently covered with snow and frost. Once above the clouds, the air is crisp and clean and the sun shines often when the snow is not falling. The trees of Winterspring were bent and twisted into odd positions during the climatic battle of Mount Hydro. Many of the world's trees' massive roots are also exposed here, towering overhead like massive oak archways. This otherwise cold and serene place shakes with periodic conflict between the forces of the sorcerer dragon Kobotan, the night elves who strive to drive them from the slopes of Mount Hydro. Snowcats, bears, and other creatures of the wild are seen here on occasion, but only rarely due to the high altitude. It is a place of cold medium forest and rugged mountains. Both the Steam Needle Cartel and the Night Elves have established bases in the region. Though there are no instance dungeons or battlegrounds in Winterspring, there are several micro-dungeons here. Which the idea of micro-dungeons is super interesting, and I think this is mostly referring to all the different elite areas that are located in Winterspring, because there are three specifically, two which we kind of just check very quickly in the footage, as you'll see at some point in this video, of Mazthro and Dark Whisper Gorge, which are two really cool locations, where Dark Whisper Gorge is basically like the connection from Winterspring to Mount Hydro, which we don't see Mount Hydro until the Cataclysm expansion, but it's still like a really cool area here in Classic WoW, where there's not too much going on, but there's some demons walking around, of course. And then Frost Whisper Gorge, we spend a decent amount of time in this episode, but you'll probably just see a couple clips of it as we run through here. But when we look across Winterspring as a whole, there's just a lot of cool locations like these elite areas. And then of course there's Everlook, which we have explored, which is the fourth and final town of the Steam Needle Cartel that we really explore in the vanilla version of World of Warcraft. And then we also have the Night Elf ruins and then the Night Elf town that exists here, which we've seen the town, and we'll check out the ruins at the end of the episode. And then there's also Frostsaber Rock, which is a really cool location for mostly Alliance characters, because if you are a member of the Alliance, you can actually work on a special reputation to unlock a special Frostsaber mount, which requires you to do a lot of grinding in this map, where a lot of people like to grind the furbolgs in this map, so they also work on their Timbermaw hold reputation at the same time, which doesn't net you too much, but it's kind of just like hitting two birds with one stone, where you do both of the reputations at the same time. And because of the two reputations involving the furbolgs, there is a lot of stuff going on with the furbolgs in this map, with a lot of players just fighting the furbolgs everywhere. And in this episode, I really wanted to get to neutral with the Timbermaw hold furbolgs so we can talk to them, and so I can turn in two quests that I picked up, where we picked up a totem from the furbolgs in Fellwood, and then we picked up a totem from the furbolgs here in Winterspring. And I spent a good amount of playtime in this episode just working on getting reputation with the Timbermaw hold furbolgs, which I always love earning reputation in games, but it's kind of an issue with like how vanilla World of Warcraft, and I guess to a greater extent World of Warcraft in general, but I think is really prevalent in vanilla World of Warcraft when it comes to you wanting to complete objectives in a world where other people want to complete objectives, where there are a lot of people on this map fighting furbolgs, both Horde and Alliance, and just getting all the Winterfall spirit beads and just killing furbolgs for reputation so they can boost their Timbermaw hold reputation, and then for Alliance players to do that, as well as the Wintersaber reputation, which is mostly done at an eastern camp, and I was mostly in the western camps, so it should have been mostly like Horde players kind of around where I was, where Alliance players would mostly stick to like the eastern part. But I still saw a lot of Alliance players around here as well, and I spent a very long time to get my reputation to neutral, and honestly it was kind of frustrating, where this is kind of just like one of what a lot of people view it as an upside, and in many ways it is indeed an upside, but a lot of people also view this as a downside, where there's just a lot of competition in the World of Warcraft, where drops will only drop for one person, so you can't work with other people, and then people don't group up, and you can't like get kill credit for a kill if you're not in the same party as someone, so you don't get the reputation for that. And then we see this elsewhere in the game as well, like with harvesting nodes like mineral veins and whatnot, so on and so forth, chests, so on and so forth. And I think this is one of like the core concepts that just drives people away from like World of Warcraft in general, but it's also a thing that people really like about World of Warcraft. So it's kind of like a unique, and I guess you could call it like a little controversial kind of like idea and concept and like gameplay mechanic in vanilla World of Warcraft that we see remedied in other games, which a lot of people who like the mechanics as they are in vanilla World of Warcraft don't like how it's been changed in like other MMOs, and people hold very strong opinions about like what MMO is the right MMO, because you know everyone has their opinion about that. And like while it was frustrating that I had to spend a lot of time just trying to find furbolgs to kill to get spirit beads and to get reputation and whatnot, I did eventually complete my task, and I got the neutral reputation, as we'll see with Timbermaw hold, and I completed all those quests. And I completed all the other quests in Winterspring as well, as you see going on right now. And it's just part of the game, and I like that it's part of the game. But something that is very frustrating is an idea that I recently talked about in a video about botting in MMOs. And at the end of this video and down in the description, I'll throw a link to that video if you want to hear like a more structured discussion about it. But in that video, I talked a lot about the impact on a game's economy that botting has in MMOs, where we have seen vanilla World of Warcraft and hardcore vanilla World of Warcraft skyrocket in popularity in the last year, and there are a lot more people playing the game now than like a year or two ago. And with that, botting has skyrocketed as well, where there are a lot of bots in Azeroth now in vanilla World of Warcraft. And I'm sure we have probably seen a couple of bots in this episode, especially as I've been fighting some of the furbolgs. I'm sure there's some bots around here doing that. But with the botting happening in World of Warcraft, we see kind of like a failure of the vanilla World of Warcraft community coming into play, where I started this episode with 500 gold. And I've played about 6 or 7 hours in this episode, just fighting furbolgs mostly and doing some other quests. Like I went back to Felwood and I got some drops from the tainted water elementals at Felwood, and I got a lot of drops from the furbolgs here. And then I also did some of my mooncloth tailoring, where we've been leveling up our tailoring a little bit. Where by the end of this episode, a little bit of a spoiler towards what's about to happen, is that I basically earned around 700 gold in this episode, where if you take all of my episodes up until this point, 700 gold is probably like just under the amount of total gold that I made up to this episode. And then in this episode I just doubled it because of how the economy is in vanilla World of Warcraft now, which I wasn't really planning on getting my epic riding mount at the end of this Let's Play series, because I'm basically just going to be done with this character anyways, so it's kind of like a wasted gold. But since I have so much gold now, I'll probably just buy it anyways, because it's like 900 gold, I think, if you are revered with the faction that you want to buy your mount with. So if you're a human, you need to be revered with Stormwind, or exalted with another faction. So I'll go ahead and buy that mount at the end of this Let's Play series. And it's because of this botting that has basically put so much gold into the economy, I'm able to make so much gold from just playing this game, which kind of ruins the balance of gold and like the economy in vanilla World of Warcraft, which makes it hard for like new players wanting to like buy something. But it also makes it kind of weird for new players kind of just like progressing through the game, because if you farm certain materials, you can sell them for so much more gold, because people are willing to pay so much more gold because they have so much more gold. So it's kind of like balanced out in like the pricing, but because of the amount of gold that has been pumped into the economy by bots. And then this is kind of where a failure of the World of Warcraft classic community comes into play. People are buying that gold from bots. We just have like all this money, and it kind of just ruins part of the game, which is definitely sad for some people, and it's something that I find a little disappointing, especially when it comes to the concept of raiding, because people are now buying raid gear with gold, so like they don't have to do like as much raiding anymore, slash like they can just buy their way into groups and then buy items from like the group. Where botting in World of Warcraft has now made the game basically like pay to win, which I feel like is not a really vanilla type of thing. But to basically just summarize the last few minutes, I made a video about botting in MMOs. Go ahead and check it out if you want. I talk about this more. And I made a ton of gold, so now we have a lot of gold on this character that we can spend on some different things, which we will do. But the last major thing in this episode that I want to talk about is kind of the future of my Let's Play series in World of Warcraft, where when I am recording this, it is November 3rd, which is my birthday, and is also the first day of BlizzCon, which is always a fun time of the year for people who are interested in learning about what's coming up for Blizzard games. Where BlizzCon as a whole was a little disappointing for a lot of different IPs like Diablo and StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm and whatnot, but for Warcraft fans, they are having a very good time, where with like other Warcraft games, Hearthstone got a new expansion and like a new major feature. There is a new Warcraft mobile game, which is okay. I've been playing it and I've enjoyed it, but there's probably some issues with it that will rise in the coming months, like we see with other recent Blizzard games. At least the launch for this game is good, unlike some recent Blizzard games. But when it comes to World of Warcraft, they announced 3 new retail expansions connected together as like part of a saga, which some people think might be like the end of World of Warcraft and is going to lead into like a World of Warcraft 2, and that's just a lot of speculation that's going on. But they announced 3 new expansions, including like the first one, which I went into a lot of details about, the first one that's coming out, with like 4 new zones, 8 new dungeons, and like, you know, the progression of like the retail World of Warcraft story. But when we go to Classic WoW, they announced Cataclysm Classic, which a lot of people saw coming because Wrath Lich King Classic is ending soon. And then they announced a new hardcore rule set, where it's like self-made hardcore, so like you can't trade with other players, you can't use the trading post, stuff like that, which is just an optional rule set that I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to participate in, because this idea has been very popular in the community. And then with vanilla World of Warcraft, with Classic Era, we now have a new season that was announced, where there was the Season of the Mastery, which is basically vanilla progression from like the raid to raid to raid over the course of a year. That was basically kind of like fine-tuning and balancing some of like the numbers in the game with like how much experience you gain from doing quests and like how much damage some like mobs do, and basically how some raid fights work, where they made a lot of raids like more difficult, and people really enjoyed this season. Well, they announced the new season, which is basically Classic Plus, which a lot of people have been really excited for. And what this is basically like a standalone, to my knowledge, it's standalone version of World of Warcraft. So we're playing on Vanilla Era, Classic Era, which is basically kind of just like a freeze frame, time locked like picture of World of Warcraft in 2007 before the Burning Crusade pre-patch, with a couple of changes, like the changes to like world buffs and stuff like that. But this new season, the Season of Discovery, is basically World of Warcraft, vanilla World of Warcraft progression, but with new content, where they're adding new skills for different classes that are going to allow people to play classes in completely different ways. Like Warlocks will be able to tank, Retribution Paladins will finally be able to do DPS before Wrath of the Lich King, Mages will unlock special Bronze Dragonflight magic to be able to heal, and there's so much more. There's so much stuff announced. And they've also announced a lot of gameplay changes to the game, of course, with some new special like 10-person raids that are basically like overhauling some old dungeons, which is kind of like a lot to go into right now. They've announced like an evolution of world PvP in Ashton Vale, which seems super cool. It's like an open world, like off-track valley basically, where you can fight other players and fight bosses and whatnot. And they announced so much more stuff related to the Season of Discovery that I am super excited for. I think this is the most excited I've been for World of Warcraft since Classic WoW was originally announced, and then also kind of with like the announcement of Wrath of the Lich King. But that died down a little bit more for me compared to the original announcement of Vanilla, where I'm super excited for the Season of Discovery. And I think that is where I want to take my Let's Play series next, where we are really close to finishing this Let's Play series. And I was kind of expecting to spend like a couple months, you know, release a video like every other week, every 2 weeks, so I do some Guild Wars 2 stuff. But I think I'm going to really focus on finishing this Let's Play series, where there's only like 2 or 3 episodes left after this episode. And then I want to journey with everyone through the Season of Discovery together. So that is my next plan for my World of Warcraft Let's Play series, and I have spent a lot of time over the last year kind of deciding what I want to do with like my World of Warcraft Let's Play series, because my original plan in episode 1 is very different than what I'm kind of wanting to do today, and I have like 20 different ideas for like different Let's Play series, like groups of Let's Play series I want to do, and I think this is what I want to do next. And earlier in the episode, I said I would be playing an Orc Hunter because I recorded that before this was all announced. And I think I will be playing an Orc Hunter, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll decide kind of on the day that I make the character, honestly, what I want to play and how I want to approach this next era of vanilla World of Warcraft. But I hope you all want to play that with me, and we are very close to finishing this Let's Play series too, so I hope you all enjoy doing that with me as well. But on that note, I have spent a lot of time here in Winterspring, and I have done a lot of questing, and I've done a lot of adventuring, and I'm going to go ahead and call this episode good here, where we have gained some experience, gained a lot of gold, and I think I am good. So I hope you all enjoyed watching this episode of my World of Warcraft Let's Play series of my Human Mage 1 to 60 on Vanilla Classic Era. And I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time in the world of Azeroth. Goodbye.